Amandla, away to, from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Thank you very much. My name is Joyce from SASCO, as introduced. I'm under serious time constraints. 5 minutes is never adequate for the student movement leader. 5 minutes is the protocol observed in greetings. So, for the sake of behaving and keeping it within the bounds, greetings to the guest of honor, Professor Yuri Davis, and all protocol observed, leadership of the ANC, leadership of the Progressive Youth Alliance, BDS, and all of us here in attendance today. I would really do justice if there was more time. Our role today is very, very short, but maybe perhaps has a level of importance given where we are today. We were asked to briefly touch on the importance of an academic boycott within the broader scheme of the boycott movement. And this is particularly important for a few reasons, and I'm going to speak directly to the constituency I serve, being the students, and of course everyone else who then forms part of the academic knowledge production chain. But this is a particularly important task first and foremost because if we have an understanding of where academic activities occur, it's in universities, colleges, research institutes, think tanks, spaces of knowledge production in the knowledge economy, so to speak. But those spaces in themselves, Marx tells us, are an expression or a superstructure. They in fact represent or reflect to us what the base, our relationship with the means of production, has actually given us. So if we are to in fact challenge as a student movement or as a member of the South African Student Congress, you ought to be academically boycotting an apartheid state fundamentally because when you undermine their academic work, when you undermine their academic so-called intellectual justification of something that is overtly incorrect and unjustified, we then begin to not only undermine the very thesis that we're challenging in the academia, but it also begin to undermine the very institution. We can at least have an appreciation of the fact that these institutions are systems in which the government utilizes to purport their propaganda and maintain their hegemony and subsequently the oppression of the Palestinian people. So we as the student movement, of course, have a relationship and have a responsibility to boycott that particular collective or the state of Israel for those reasons. But secondly, speaking again to the constituents of SASCO and the progressive youth at large, we boycott academically, culturally, or any otherwise because it speaks directly to a policy position. As the youth who are rooted in the African National Congress, unapologetically so, we have an opportunity to lobby the ruling party or the governing party of the country to take positions that can influence international balances of forces. So as youth, when we begin to say we're academically boycotting or we're culturally boycotting or any other form of boycott we take as a youth of the ANC, we're effectively positioned to also lobby the governing party of the day. It is also important for us to boycott and participate in academic boycotts because it is an ideological terrain or an ideological challenge. SASCO comrades in general think of themselves, or we tag ourselves as the academia of the mass, or the intellectuals of the mass democratic movement. And this precisely means that if we're to uphold that particular prestige and position within society, we also ought to challenge those people who purport things that are ideologically corrupt. The oppression of another human being, for whatever reason it may be, is fundamentally incorrect, and we cannot accept, no matter how smartly it's put, no matter how intellectually it's put, no matter how eloquent the presentation of the thesis of oppression is oppression, and it's wrong, and it's injustice. And we, as students of this particular country, South Africa, should, of course, rise up and say, as intellectuals, we understand and fundamentally recognize an error in your reason. It's fallacious for someone to come and tell us today that Israel is not an apartheid state. We've heard many arguments of how, no, in fact, it's not a successful analogy. If you look at the South African context, Bantu states, look at Palestine, it's not the same. They're independent, they've got their own rights. Come and see. No, we don't want to come and see. And to all those who have been offered trips to go to Israel, we are unapologetically rejecting those trips. It is in fact the ill discipline of the highest order. You cannot, should not, and will not get onto a plane going to Israel. We have no business with the oppressor of the day. Our business with the oppressor of the day is to challenge them vigorously, is to oppose what they're doing vigorously, and lastly, as the student movement, is to also meet them where we can meet them pound for pound in the academia, over and above boycotting their material and their production and how they maintain their hegemony, we also ought to add to the discourse. A student leader, a responsible student leader of the movement, a progressive youth leader, ought to be writing and challenging the narrative and interpretations of how they justify the oppression of the Palestinian child today. So in the interest of maintaining the 5 minutes, Kwara, wherever you are, I know you would kill me if I were to abuse my platform. We would have loved to say much more.
Kwara's non-violent.
But, oh, trust me. Kwara is as non-violent as the Israel state. Jokes. But in the interest of time and respecting, of course, and honoring the program, would like to say that as the South African Student Congress, we are fully behind the BDS movement in particular. We recognize the importance of what we're doing in society. We also recognize the strides that have been made thus far. And we recognize without confusion that indeed a boycott of the cultural institutions, a boycott of the academic activities, the boycott of the academic production knowledge that they're producing in Israel to justify their work, or to even fundraise and sponsor the activities that they're doing to sustain the oppression of the Palestinian people is fundamentally incorrect. And in SASCO, we're saying we are fully behind this particular movement and will continue to mobilize the youth of South Africa behind the correct call. And we recognize today, or we want to firmly state today, that the same way that free education will come in our lifetime, the people of Palestine will also be liberated in our lifetime. Amandla.